Hey guys, question for you. How many of you look at someone who heads to the bar when they're stressed, or eats an entire pizza, or goes for a run, or, shouts at the wall, hits walls? How many of you judge people that do these things as being like
Less than.
yeah, inferior? Why do they do that? Why do they cope in those ways?
Why can't they have self-control?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, just be honest with yourself and ask yourself, do you find that when you reflect, you cast judgment on these behaviors? It's completely normal to. It really is. Humans are judging creatures. We have ideas and we
That's
judge.
how we set up like hierarchies in our brain.
Exactly. Yeah, it
On
makes
who's more
processing,
dominant.
it's just like a stereotype. It's designed, it's part of our brain to make processing information easier and quicker.
Yep.
So in this video, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about judging people for their choice of coping.
Yeah. So a lot of people cast judgment and call people like idiots or whatever if they have something different, but it's all the same mechanism. We're all self-soothing. And a lot of these things are set up like during childhood. Whatever we watched our parents do when we were in our formative years usually is what we do as adults. If your mom shoved cake in your mouth every time you cried, then you're most likely going to use food as an adult to cope. If you watched your parents get loaded all the time or party with friends and stuff when they were stressed out or have a drink after work, you're most likely going to go to that. And so on. Right?
These are deeply ingrained habits that most of us have that operate at an unconscious level.
Yeah,
And
it's like autopilot.
It's the first step is kind of identifying that you do it, but
Awareness is the first step to changing any behavior.
yeah,
Is consciously admitting, yeah, I have an issue there.
but it's a lot easier said than done to actually do the changing, right?
Yeah, it takes a lot of work.
Takes
And
a lot
it's
of work,
not, a lot of people want
introspection.
like instant results too with changing a coping mechanism. Like, I just don't want to do this anymore, and so I want to decide and never do it again. Rarely happens.
Yeah,
that way.
very rarely. I mean, it can. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it has happened to you, and if it has, then that's amazing because
It's usually happens more so though when you're in your early 20s. And I'm sure a lot of you can agree with that. And that is because our habits aren't as deeply ingrained. Our brain has like these neural pathways.
it's still a little more plastic, and
Yeah,
so it's
yep.
easier to change things around.
When you're younger. And
That
so,
makes
yeah,
sense.
when you were 22, you might have quit smoking, just like that, cold turkey. But as you're 45, you're having an issue not drinking wine every time your kids stress you out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more difficult. And so you need to put in new coping strategies. Some of my favorites are meditation, DBT. What else?
What's DBT stand for?
Dialectical behavioral therapy. And there's workbooks. You like that workbook too.
Yeah, I use that workbook.
Yeah, and I like the Reason to Change, which is rational emotive behavioral therapy workbooks. And those help you analyze your thoughts. I'm a very analytical person, though. That's not going to work with all people. Some people are going to need more talk therapy, and you're going to have to hire a therapist for that. I don't do well with that form of therapy. I do well with self-therapy and reading. You just have to find what works with you.
Yeah. So I guess that was really the kind of, to back up, the point we wanted to make here is that we all have methods to cope, and oftentimes we aren't even aware that we're using those methods to cope. And so if you are someone who is aware of how you cope, and if you're someone who has watched this video, then hopefully you now approach coping and these detrimental behaviors with a new perspective.
And more compassion for other people that utilize different methods. That bum laying on the road, he's just doing the best he can to make himself feel okay with the pain that he has inside his mind.
Yeah. And
it's just compassion.
I guess I'll use that to branch off to and make another point, which is that you can't read someone's mind. You don't know why they're engaging in the behaviors they are. Maybe they do willingly engage in these behaviors and are doing it, because they just don't care. But maybe they're engaging in those behaviors because they have this unconscious programming that drives them to seek that out whenever they have a familiar life experience or trauma that they experienced during childhood.
Yeah.
That's not their fault. And so be compassionate.
And compassion leads to change more than judgment does. Like, judgment causes the person more pain, and so they're more likely to reach to those unhealthy coping mechanisms than if you were to offer them love and compassion.
Because they're using those coping methods to beat down the pain to begin with. So why would you cause them more pain? That doesn't make sense. So if you think that this video would help anyone, please share it with them.